Hello everyone. Welcome to the very first webinar of InspironLabs. Thank you all of you for joining us today for the webinar Modernizing Without Disruption SME Playbook for GenAI and Cloud Skill. In today's session, we'll be walking you through the challenges SMEs and product-led organizations are facing nowadays, and also we'll share some key insights. We'll walk you through the framework and we'll also show you some real case scenarios and case, case studies. Give me a moment. Yeah, yeah, sorry for the delay. So we'll be sharing some key insights. We'll walk you through our modernization framework. Along with that, we'll share some real world use cases with you. Before diving deeper into the conversation, let me quickly introduce you to our speakers. So we have Venkat Krishna with us, who's a next-gen product engineering leader with great expertise in building and scaling the modern products. Along with him, joining Sudarshan, who is a modern product architecture specialist with great expertise and deep expertise in modern architecture and basically the cloud native architecture and designing and building the modern product platforms. Together, they will walk you through the framework that can help you in scaling the digital products where you can use the GenAI technologies and cloud native engineering technologies, and you can transform your product journey without any disruption. So let me quickly walk you through the agenda of today's discussion. I hope my screen is visible to you all. In today's discussion, we'll be going through a quick introduction about InspironLabs and the challenges SMEs and product-led organizations are facing currently. Uh, Secondly, like what all key takeaways you'll be getting from this webinar, along with the current trends, 2026 reality, which is related to basically Gen AI and market trends. We'll walk you through our five-step framework, modernization playbook that can help you transform your product modernization journey. And along with that, we'll share some real-world use cases. Followed by that, we'll be concluding the discussion with some key takeaways and insights that can help you with your modernization journey. So let me quickly introduce you to InspironLabs. So in the AI first era, the main thing that can create difference is basically how stable and well executed your transformation is. So we at Inspiron Labs, we work with product-led SMEs and their teams to modernize and scale their digital products using latest technologies, which is GenAI and cloud-native engineering, without causing any disruption. Our strong focus is on maintaining the business continuity, along with that, basically delivering the real business outcome. In our modernization approach, our like completely complete strategies backed by the AI intelligence, where you can generate insights. You can leverage AI. You can generate insights from there, and you can deliver more intelligent business outcomes. So we have like proven strategies, and we have already implemented in couple of projects that have actually delivered smarter and real business outcomes. Our major focus is to help the SMEs or help the product-led organization to scale confidently in the AI era. In that note, I would like to hand over the discussion to Sudarshan to take the discussion and conversation forward. So over to you, Sudarshan.
Thanks, Priyanka. And everyone, welcome to the very first webinar on modernizing without any disruption to your softwares and the platforms. So today's topic is really close to me and Venkat both because transitioning any SMEs without disruption is the best decision any business can take in today's market just to stay among the top leaders of today's competitive market. Look, there are many companies which are doing this digital and technical upgrade just to stay in the game of today's competitive market. However, there are many businesses which are like a smaller SMEs. It's not a very easy job for them. It's not a smooth selling for them. So they face some real world challenges, and that's what we have to consider. Means while modernization, definitely you will face all of these challenges, and that's where the Inspiron Labs has a framework which can help you in the strategizing the proper roadmap and doing the proper end-to-end modernization without disruption. So very first challenge that what I see is many businesses out there, they are facing the challenge of doing modernization without affecting their day-to-day operation on live system. So they want to transition, but they are not very sure that while doing this transitioning, what will be the effect of these on their live systems, whether it is going to affect any live system, and whether it is going to impact any platform. So that is the very first thing. And the second thing that they have is like they don't have enough skills and the resources that they can put in order to do this modernization journey. And also, at the end of this, there is also uncertainty. Whatever the transitioning that they are doing, whether it is even going to even pay off, that's a very important thing. And what will be the complication of these while doing this transitioning? And what will be the ripple effect of this on a team and as well as on a business? So that is another thing. So at the heart of these, the SMEs are really confused in a technical doubt of how to scale, how to innovate, and how to do the transitioning without disrupting their business continuity. So these are the very important things that any business will face out there which are doing the modernization. So now I have talked about the challenges. Now, the very next thing we need to understand is what you are going to understand or what you are going to gain out of this session or webinar. So, very first thing you will understand how Inspiron Labs strategies are playing crucial role in the modernizing the SMEs, product-led SMEs, without disrupting any live system or live platforms. The second thing you will understand from our strategy is that how Inspiron Labs is utilizing the cloud native and GenAI approach in order to deliver the more to the user and in order to do this overall transitioning journey. And at the end of this, I'll help you understand some examples or the challenges that we have solved with our strategies at Inspiron Labs. And I'll also help you understand where the market is heading as of today in 2026. So that is really important. So you need to understand what are the data-driven insights as of today and why you should go for a modernization. Now I have talked about all of this. So now the very big question comes into everyone's mind is whoever is joined to this webinar, why modernization really matters. So if you're among the CXOs and VPs, the very first thing which comes into the mind is ROI. So definitely, if you're doing the transitioning to the modernization with a clear strategies and a proper roadmap, you will get a more ROI. If you're not doing with the proper strategies and a proper roadmap, there will not be any changes in the ROI. It will be very stagnant. So that is one thing. And the other thing, modernization gives you the advantage that it helps you to stay among the top leaders in today's competitive market, where everyone is trying their best in order to do the transitioning and get more customer base out in the market across the world. And the very last thing, modernization gives you the advantage of delivering the features very quickly to your users so that you gain more users on your platform and the user interaction will increase. Ultimately, it will help you in the ROI. And if you're among the tech product owners or the tech heads, definitely you are very focused on reducing the tech debt. So definitely you should do the modernization in order to do the reduce the tech debt. The second thing, it helps you doing the faster releases. Look, there are many businesses which are doing these releases, but they are doing once a while a month release on the release cycle. So at Inspiron Labs, we follow the strategy of weekly and bi-weekly strategies of a deployment where we try to release the features as soon as possible so that your user engagement doesn't get impacted, your user experience doesn't get impacted, and the consistency of users retaining on the platform get increased. And the very last thing, the approach that we take while developing this application is a cloud native. So all of your applications will be much scalable. So there will not be any problem in terms of scaling your application under the loads. So there will not be downtime, I would say, while if you're doing the modernization with the correct strategy. So all of this point really matters, and that's why you should go for modernization. So I talked about why modernization matters, but you need to also understand why we are doing this. So as of today in the 2026, nearly 75% of the product-led SMEs are built on the top of cloud-native platforms. GenAI is moved from the experimentation to the real-world impact, which unlocks the $4.4 trillion of a market. That's a really huge. And also that helps us in how we are innovating, how we are delivering the features, or how we are delivering the more AI related content or AI related features to the user so that the user engagement doesn't get impacted. It should be very gradually increasing on the platform. And the people who are doing this modernization, they're really moving 30 to 40% faster than their rivals. So if you're among the people who are really interested in doing this transitioning with the proper strategies, definitely you should move for the modernization. Now, overall, I have talked all of these points like why and what and how. So everything I have walked you through. Now, very big question comes like how modernization really works at Inspiron Labs. And that's where our modernization playbooks comes into the picture, and it will be discussed by Venkat. So I'll hand over this to the Venkat. Venkat, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sudarshan. So, yeah, let's get to the main part of the webinar, the InspironLabs modernization playbook. So, before we dive in, so there are a few things which I want to basically set the expectations. So, this isn't like a theoretical framework that we follow. We have this like actually what we do with the clients. So, it's built from real engagements, real problems, and real results. Okay. So, think of these five steps as a continuous cycle, not like a one-time checklist. So you don't finish modernization. Basically it's a whole flow which you have to do throughout. It's not like a one-time thing where you do it and you end it there. Correct. So how we do it is a main thing, right? So there are five major steps which we follow. There is assess and align, cloud native foundations, embedding Gen AI, modernization without disruption, and measure and evolve. So let's go. Let me walk you through each of these one by one. So let's get started with step one. There is assess and align. So step one is all about assessment and alignment. And so if you look at the anyone who wants to modernize, right? So typically what they do, they're like this biggest mistake which teams actually do is they straight away jump into rewriting the code base or redesigning the whole thing without asking why. So that is how I mean that is one of the biggest mistakes on you'll realize it later like after 6 months or spending so much money, and you'll end up thinking like why did you even do this modernization, right? So how do we do this? So we always start with simple questions. So what is the business problem you're trying to solve? Is it scale or is it speed or is it cost? So if we cannot come up with an answer, then we are not ready for modernization because we don't know what to modernize, right? So why to modernize and what to modernize? So let us see from the business lens. So like what we can focus on. So first is the strategic alignment. So we don't just look at the technology. Like we map your modernization initiatives directly to your business goals. So whether that's entering into new markets or reducing operational costs or improving customers retention, every technical decision ties back to the business outcome, right? So and the second important thing is the ROI. So every modernization, all the product leaders think about the ROI, right? What we actually achieve out of this. So before even writing a single line of code, we project the cost, timelines, and expected returns across multiple scenarios. It's not like one scenario which we lay out and expect this is the outcome. Obviously, that is not how modernization will go ahead, right? So we will think of all the major scenarios that we can come up with, and we'll project the cost and timelines for it. So this kind of gives a leadership confidence to invest and give teams the clarity to prioritize what to modernize first. So the third part is risk assessment. So we identify what could go wrong and build mitigation strategies upfront. So obviously, because the best time to prevent disruption is before it even starts, right? So later we shouldn't be like at some midnight something goes wrong and we shouldn't break our heads and figure out like what went wrong. So the risk assessment is one of the most important thing in the assessment and align. So when you look at it in the technology lens, right? So till now we're looking at the business aspect. Now when you look at the technology lens, This obviously one of the most important things. So one important thing that we will have to look at is the technical debt audit. So we analyze your existing architecture to find bottlenecks and single point failures or scaling constraints. So based on your business goals, these audits will be done, and you'll be surprised like how many companies don't actually know what depends in their system. So there are a lot of cases where companies, during modernization, they'll be like, okay, this is an independent service. Let me just remove it or update it or make changes, right? And that breaks a lot of things in the system. So a lot of them do not actually understand the whole, because the scale of the products, they might not know the dependency. So this is one important thing that we'll have to follow. And one more point is the workload categorization. So when you look at modernization, right, not everything in your system needs to be modernized at once. So that's the one of the trap many teams falls into. So like they try to modernize everything at once, which can lead to a lot of other issues. So how do we do it? So we classify the workloads, like whatever workloads we have, into three buckets. That is quick wins, strategic foundations, and main for now. So what is quick wins basically? High impact, low effort. So these are like 20 to 30% of your systems. We tackle these first to build momentum and show results early, because once we start modernization, obviously we have to start somewhere. We'll identify the places where we get the highest returns in the limited time and tackle those first. And the next part is strategic foundations. Core systems that need careful migration plan. Like these may take time to deliver, but these are the core system, and this gives the biggest long-term value. One more is the maintain for now. So what does this mean? Basically, like system that work fine, they don't justify the modernization cost right now. So modernization will be needed, but not at the initial point of view. That can be taken in different phases. So these things will have the main categorization of the workload is one of the important thing. And the next part is a dependency mapping. So understanding what's connected to what is very important, because if we do not understand this during the initial assessment, uh, this can lead to cascading failures that, to be frank, no one will see that coming, right? So it suddenly happens and all of us will start breaking our heads. So at the end of this phase, like typically in the assess and align phase, right? So you'll have a proper prioritization, modernization roadmap, and when you go to this detail, it shouldn't be like a 200-page document that you just give it to your developers or designers and be like, get this done. It'll be like an actionable guide that your teams can actually execute against. So it's not like some developer docs or some design docs, which, to be frank, no one even refers to, right? It can be gone through once and they'll just shelve it. So this won't be something like that. So it's a proper documentation where your teams can follow. So the next another part is the step two of our modernization playbook is cloud native foundations. So step two is about building your cloud native foundation. Now, like if you hear the word cloud native or cloud anything, right? It's like a buzzword where a lot of people just throw around this just to mention that, okay, our product is on cloud. So cloud native, what actually means, right? So cloud native means your infrastructure becomes elastic. It basically grows when you need it and shrinks when you don't. So let's say your typical workload is from Monday to Friday or in the weekends. So your system should be ready to take up so much of load at that specific time, and the rest of the time it not run at such a high resource, right? It can shrink whatever whenever it is not needed. So what is the direct impact of this? Obviously, the infra cost will reduce, but the real win isn't just the cost. Cost is one aspect of your modernization ROI which you look, but it's the resilience which matters the most. So obviously, when something breaks, and things will break when you're modernizing, things can go wrong, but it doesn't take down everything. So one service will fail, the rest will be running. So that isolation is required in any system, that you don't have cascading failures when one of your services goes down, right? So this is like fundamental shift from typical monolithic to microservices, like if you look at the architecture point of view. So now let us look at the business lens. So like when you look at the cloud native part, business is one of the most important things, right? When you put on the business lens. So what do you achieve in terms of business perspective? So scalability without risk. So you can handle demand spikes seamlessly. Like let's say you put out a marketing campaign and you might be expecting load. So with cloud native approach, if everything is done seamlessly, then your infra should scale as it is and shrink when it's not needed. So if your marketing campaign went out on like Sunday and Monday you're expecting load, your infra will be able to handle all of this without any like escalation costs or DevOps or all of those things. Other part is the cost efficiency. So obviously for the product leaders and all, cost is one of the most important aspect, like in terms of infra cost and all, right? So basically with this, you will pay for what you use. So we basically it's like pay as you use kind of model, right? So with this approach, typically we see on 20 to 30% of the infra cost reduction. So it's because you will stop paying for the capacity which you actually don't use. It's not like randomly it happens. It is because of the path which we follow. And business continuity. So like I mentioned, failures are isolated, not systematic. So if something goes down, the rest of the system should work as it is without any ripple effects. So that is an important aspect of the isolation. And the last point, so speed to market. So with independent services, standardized pipelines, your teams can launch faster and experiment more freely, and they don't have to worry about, okay, like will the whole system go wrong, or uh, uh, worry items need not be there. Like these kind of architecture or the approach which we follow, right? So now putting on the technology lens, so looking at the cloud native foundation. So what do we how do we actually do this? Like what do we categorize with this, right? So one is the first thing which I want to mention is the microservice architecture. So if you, I mean, typically in the market, like monolithic microservice, it's always a debate. So depending on your product use case, it can be microservice or monolithic, right? So typically for large scale products, microservice is obviously recommended. So that is one thing which we do initially during the audit. Obviously, one major shortfall of monolithic is any single failure can bring down the whole system. That is the main issue of monolithic, right? So with microservice, basically, uh, it is isolated, like I mentioned. So with this, we don't actually force a big bang rewrite. How do we achieve from monolithic to microservice? That is some very important, right? So we kind of extract the services which we want to move to microservices strategically. So starting with the most problematic or the highest value component. So if you feel like this will give you the highest uh, return in terms of time, we can start and plan with that initially itself. So like as an example, in one of the clients which we have seen, the development frequency has increased from once a month to multiple times a day because these are microservices and they can be independently deployed with very less impact. So if it's a monolithic, let's say you change something, you don't know what might affect. So your development frequency increases because your testing, everything increases, right? So another point of it is containerization with Kubernetes. So this give you what is the main idea of containerization? It's like consistent environments from your development to production, right? So basically the main ideology that it works in my machine becomes a thing in past, so we don't have to worry about it. And along with this, you get auto scaling based on actual demand. Means, like I mentioned, the infrastructure becomes elastic, right? So you're actually not paying for your idle infrastructure, but you pay for what you use. And the next point is the serverless adoption. So this is the paper use model, like perfect for SMEs with variable workloads. So you only pay when code is actually running. So this is typically for use event-driven architecture, backend APIs, or any of those sporadic usages which you have in your system. Like if your workload anything is fits into this use case, then serverless adoption is perfect for you because you only pay when your code actually runs or when it's actually doing something. And another important aspect of your cloud native approach is the infrastructure of the code. Like your entire infrastructure becomes a version control and or becomes version control and auditable. So disaster recovery goes from weeks to minutes. So let's say today I have a dev environment, more I want to bring QA for whatever reason. It and typically what happens, it's a DevOps cycle where you take a week or something to get the environment up and everything becomes stable. It takes more than a week, right? So this goes from weeks to minutes. So with infrastructure as a code as approach, and yeah, so I think we can go to the next one that is our embedding GenAI. So yeah, so this is the market trend which we are seeing, the AI bubble, which they actually call. So how do we embed GenAI into your products basically? So like I mentioned, everyone is talking about AI right now, and just adding AI for the sake of AI gives us no actual advantage, right? So the main question isn't if you should use it, it's where you should actually use the AI and AI to make your user experience better. So in Inspiron Labs, like as part of the playbook, like we do all of this audits and understand your system and understand your business goals. And we don't do AI for the sake of adding AI into your product. So that's how most of the typical products which you see in the market, right? So they add a very very basic chatbot which no one uses and everyone complains about it, and it's just a bad experience for your users, right? So what do we do? So instead, like look for high ROI use cases. So where's the pain in your system? Like where are you spending more money on repetitive work? Like where can this genuinely improve the user experience? This is what we actually look at. So the four areas where we see the biggest impact. So one obvious thing that I can think of right now is the customer support automation. So if you look at majority of the products in the market, all of them are for the customer aspect. They're moving into AI chatbots, right? So you might think initially, okay, it's a bad user experience, but when you look at the impact of the business, right? So typically the kind of questions you get to customer support is kind of repeated. Like 70% of the support tickets are similar, right? So it's like a very good use case for AI where you can use that to handle the repeated questions and use the actual time to answer those 30% or 20% of the questions which actually needs human intervention, right? So your support team can then focus on complex high value interactions. And the Okay, so then what do you get out of this, right? So the implementation cost, you might think, okay, I'm implementing AI stuff. So initially the implementation cost will be high because of all the infra and everything. So typically we look at the overall cost and impact with the all of this, right? So typically we see a recovery of like within 3 to 6 months of whatever value you have put in just to bring in this AI infra and AI related features, right? One less obvious thing that no one thinks about is the predictive product insights. So, AI is basically built for your prediction and all of it, right? So, AI analyzes user behavior probably better than a human, like because we can't think of so many things. So, it basically analyzes the user behavior patterns to predict churn or your identify opportunities where you cannot manually spot. So opportunities like, okay, this impacts the user experience directly and makes their experience better. That's a really good use case, right? So that is one thing. So just to give an example, like one of the clients, like kind of during the implementation or audit part of view, we found out that this kind of specific feature is a really good implementation for the user experience. And once they basically implemented it, right, so they got a lot of the retention increased by at least 2 to 3x. So just by implementing the AI in the basically right place. Other part of it is personalized user experience. So basically interfaces that adapt to your user preferences, skill levels, and goals. So if you look at a lot of let's say Google itself, like how it shows your recommendations, right? So smart recommendations and not just for your e-commerce, like B2B SaaS products can recommend workflows, templates, and features. If you look at Jira right now, they are also adding these kind of things where it actually helps in few cases. And that is a good use case for AI itself, for personalized user experience. Biggest point of your AI is the development acceleration. So you might think AI might replace your developers, but it actually helps them in building it faster. That is one of the most important use case and what we are seeing in the environment right now. So yeah, next is the market reality and our approach, like what we do and what is the current market reality. So now, basically, here's the competitive context that you should know, like when you're going to the webinar, right? So, like 60% of our product leaders surveyed said that GenAI as a critical in differentiating within the next 2 years. So that's why you see every other product just jumping to the AI bubble. So they're just bringing AI every other place just to figure out what works for them. So this isn't like a future trend, but this is actually happening in the market. So if you don't capture this, then you'll be losing on a lot of things because everyone is moving towards AI. If you don't do it, then it's like you're not implementing the AI in the right way. Then it's a very big loss for your company itself. So how do we do it in Inspiron Labs? So like for implementing AI, like I mentioned, we focus on the high ROI and product specific use cases, not just generic AI features, but this is built to tailor your product and your users. So second, second, we start with the pilot initiative. So we can start with smaller features and deliver to your internal ones and get the review and get those delivered faster. So you get better user experience and user interaction, and that is one that I consider that is one of the biggest wins. If user gets better experience, then what else is required? And third is we embed AI where it simplifies the user experience, not where it complicates it. So if AI as a feature makes your product harder to use, then frankly, it doesn't belong there. So that is one thing. So now let's go to the fourth point, that is modernize without disruption. So this is one of the most critical ones whenever you look at the modernization, right? So this is where your theory meets practice. So this is the part where kind of everyone is scared, like every product leader, every CTO has the same question. So what if we break production, or what if we break this feature, or what if something goes wrong? Obviously, it's a valid concern, and we should be prepared for it. So what we do, we use three proven migration strategies. So this is what we are doing with our clients. This is what we have done. So this is the battle tested thing, if I want to mention. But yeah, so the Strangler's Pick pattern. So like if you have not heard of it, to simplify it in a very layman's language, it's like a tree that grows around another tree and slowly replaces it. So that's exactly how we approach legacy systems. Like we build new cloud native functionality alongside the old system, route the traffic to the new system. Legacy traffic stays on the old. So gradually you can migrate your users, let's say 5% at a time, to the newer services, get their feedback, look at the metrics, and if everything works out, you can obviously increase the uh, percent of users who are using it. And yeah, so next is phase parallel. So initially, we will run both the old and new systems together in a defined period. So compare the performance, validate the results, and build confidence on the newer systems. And hybrid rollouts. So basically we combine multiple strategies for maximum flexibility. We might have to run both the old and new ones together for few months just to understand how it goes on and then remove it. So this will be a combined strategy that we follow. The main key principle that we actually implement is incremental transformation that maintains business continuity throughout the entire journey. So your business, the main, like I mentioned, that the topic itself is modernize without disruption. The core idea is the services should not be disrupted, your user experience should not be hampered. So when we look at the business aspect, like business lens, so what do they actually look at? Like zero downtime this, right? So like no big bang migrations where we replace the entire system at once and expect everything to run. So your customer experience improvement should be good or better. It shouldn't disrupt them. So full risk control, like every change is introduced incrementally, like I mentioned, measured continuously, and if it goes well, then you increment the number of users who will be using it. It's like a phased rollout. So you always have the ability to pause, adjust the rollback, and you are never locked into a single path. So you'll have your migration plan, and you'll never be locked to the newer ones, and you don't have to worry about go how do we go back to the legacy system, right? When we look at the timelines for bringing this, right? So a typical SME product modernization takes about 6 to 18 months. So like depending on the scale and complexity. So we try to set honest expectations, not just for the sales aspect. So whatever is the actual timeline that we think we will project the same, and just to ensure that everything goes smoothly. So that is one thing which we try to stick to, is the realistic timelines. So uptime during migration is one of the important thing. So this is what provides the proof for a point, right? So we try to maintain 99% uptime when achieving higher output through lower infrastructure costs. So like I mentioned, uptime is one important thing during modernization. And why we are doing modernization, obviously, is probably one of the aspect can be infrastructure costs. How do we do it? If you run, like you might ask me, like if you're running both the systems in parallel, won't it impact the infra costs? Yes, it will. But once we complete the migration, the let's say the investment which you get out of it in terms of user experience, I would say it holds a higher value when compared to this. So when we look at the technology lens, right? So the like I mentioned, the Strangler's Fit pattern, uh, we build new cloud native functionality alongside your legacy systems. Then like I mentioned, we gradually migrate the traffic and features and data. The old system will obviously stay live for 1 month or 2 months, or until we are 100% confident that the new system is stable enough and it can handle everything. That is when we do it, and then we can decommission the older ones and directly move to the newer systems. And phase migration strategy. So we do not start with the scale system. Like I mentioned, we have to identify what is the critical aspects of it, figure out a migration part, and then take up. It's not like directly jump into your most critical component, replace it, and expect it to work. So that is one thing. So that is the part of the phase one, and phase two is like high value but lower risk. So clear ROI with manageable complexity is something which we look for. So if we can figure out those aspects, then it's easy to modernize those set of features or set of systems and follow the migration path. And yeah, hybrid rollouts. Like, how do we do hybrid rollouts? You might ask, and the straightforward answer is feature flags. So those are something like very useful. It might sound like a very simple feature, but that saves a lot of things in terms of your system, like reliability, migration patterns, everything. It can be done by feature flags. So for an example, like you can roll out your functionality for like 5% of the users first, watch every metric, like I mentioned. If something is off, you can turn off the feature again and go back to your older ones, go to the drawing board again, figure out what went wrong. If not, you can gradually increase it by 5%, 25%, 50% until you're confident. Once everything is done, release it to the 100% of users, and your old legacy systems becomes, uh, you can basically stop them. So yeah, next would be the reliability by design and the real world results, which we see, correct? So we basically, when we look at the modernization aspect, right? So we typically don't just hope things work. Like we engineer the whole thing for reliability into every migration. So we don't just dive and expect everything to work. We engineer in a way that it is reliable, it is scalable, and it will stay for a long time. And automated monitoring. So when it comes to AI again, so AI powered anomaly detection is something very important, which catches issues before your users actually do. So that is a very important part. You catch the issue before your user gets it, and that's a win for me because your users don't experience the let's say issues or any issues in the features itself. So another aspect is circuit breakers. So let's say if new system shows any stress, so traffic automatically falls back to your legacy system. So your users will not be impacted. So no human intervention is needed. This is all automatically done, and you don't have to worry about downtimes for, let's say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes, or the worst case, an hour of downtime. And along with this, what we actually do is like comprehensive testing. It might be load testing, your stress, or chaos engineering. We try to break things in staging itself so they do not break in your production. So these are the things which we actually follow. And other part is the war room protocol. I think majority of organizations will have this in place already. So like during critical migrations, we will have a dedicated team monitoring everything in place in real time. So nothing gets missed. And if something goes wrong, we'll always have a way to roll back with all the steps we have followed. So I think, yeah. So let's talk about the results, like what kind of examples I can provide you. So like one of the clients which I've seen, like which I've recently worked on, uh, wanted to look at the modernization of the checkout system, which is like the critical component of the e-commerce listing, right? So now, if you ask about it, so like checkout is the worst place to have the downtime or bugs, right? So that's literally where the money flows. So how did we did it? So we built the new checkout alongside with the existing system, ran both systems in parallel for around I think a month or 3 weeks or something. And we, like I mentioned, it was in parallel, started moving 5% of the users or 10% of the users, and based on the metrics and everything was gradually moved on to the newer ones within I think 2 or 3 months. So since it's like critical component, we cannot hurry into jumping into the more ones. So yeah, so we can move to the next part, that is the measure and evolve. So yeah, so this is something which is kind of overlooked every time. So like one of the truth which I want to tell is like most companies don't know if their modernization itself work. So they feel like it might feel like things are better, but there's no way to actually measure it, right? So we need numbers or we need some metrics to know that our modernization work, it is helping our users. So how do we measure it? So like we target like 4 dimensions like right now. So one is your deployment velocity. How often are you deploying? So what is your lead time for commit to production? So like here's one of the benchmarks, that is the like top performing teams can deploy multiple times per day with less than 5% failure rate. So if that is something which you're seeing, that is a huge win for us, that so that we don't do monthly development cycles, right? Business impact. So trying to market for new features. So let's say how fast can you go to the market is an important thing. And customer acquisition costs, user retention and engagement rates, revenue per user. These are numbers you have to care about to understand if your modernization work. One another aspect is your technical health, like infrastructure costs as a percentage of a revenue, system uptime, reliability, technical debt ratio, meaning how much time you are spending building new features versus fixing your older issues. So obviously, this also comes with your monitoring your infra, or you're looking at your API response time, performance metrics, and all of it. And what, one important thing as a developer myself, I would look at is a team productivity, right? So developer satisfaction scores, code review cycle times, and how many incidents we got. Like if it's a happy developer, then the product will obviously be better. That is an important thing in terms of your team productivity. So yeah, so now let's go to the continuous improvement loop. And so here's the final piece of our modernization playbook. So there's, like I mentioned, there's not a one and done exercise. Modernization isn't a project with an end date. So it is like a continuous capability you built into your organization. So your system should be ready for today. It might be AI, like I mentioned, right? Tomorrow it can be anything else. So your system should be ready, and it is a continuous cycle that you today implement AI, or you embed some feature. Tomorrow it can be anything else. So the loop is simple. So you measure, capture the metrics automatically, analyze, like I mentioned, use AI-driven analytics to surface the patterns and opportunities, experiment, test, improve in controlled environments, scale, basically roll out what works to the organization and repeat. If we follow this, then we should be good with the modernization cycle, and we don't have to worry about breaking something by introducing something else. So if you look at the typical like companies who are actually pulling it right now aren't the ones who are modernized ones, but they are continuously doing it. So recognition now it's the AI bubble. Tomorrow it can be anything else. So we have to be ready to modernize in any way which comes in the market right now. So one key principle that you'll have to remember is the goal isn't to modernize everything. It is to modernize the right thing in your system and then keep getting better in terms of it. So I think that is from the playbook aspect. So I think we can go to the next part in that case. I think the next is case studies, right?
Thanks, Venkat, for explaining the modernization playbook. That was a really great explanation about our strategies and the plan that we follow at InspironLabs in order to do these all the transformation and the transition without disruption. Now, as we have talked about this playbook part, now we need to understand, have we tested this particular playbook? So we have tested this particular playbook on two of us client. They are very big in terms of a SaaS product. One is a SaaS product with the monolith architecture. It was a application built on monolith architecture initially, and whatever the releases they used to do previously, even minor release or minor or major product release, is always there for them, that it was bringing the downtime on their platform. So that was a very bad user experience they had. And the rising infrastructure cost, that's a very important, which again let you go in a debt. So if you want to have a plan, if you want to do the migration, it should be done in a strategic way, that it is reducing your debt. It is helping you just focus on OPEX instead of a CAPEX. CAPEX is a capital expenditure. A lot of people put in a cost before on the infra and all of these things, and they don't consider a lot of things about the load, about the trends, and all of the cloud native activities. So they don't focus on all of these, and that's where the things goes wrong for them. And the any changes they used to do, it was like their system was not being uptime all the time. It was for a moment of a time, or for let's say 30 or let's say 10 or 15 minutes, the system will be down and the user will feel bad experience on their particular platform. So what we do at InspironLabs is we first map their dependencies, we map the critical features using our playbook, and we decide like what strategy can be best for them for doing this modernization. So the strangler peak pattern that Venkat mentioned, that's a very uh, means the best pattern that we have approached in order to do this transitioning. And that's where we started with breaking down the monolith architecture into the microservices and deploying the individual services so that the entire system will be ready after a particular period of a time, and there is no impact on the system as well. And we use a Kubernetes in the cloud that it helps you in auto scaling. The system will be scaled automatically. So you don't have to worry about upfront cost of the infra. So you have to go for a pay as you go. So you just have to focus on operational cost. And the very next thing that we do is the infrastructure as a code. We write a code in a particular setup that it is always consistent, and there will be disaster recovery across the regions as well as in the particular region as well. So we focus on that particular aspect as well. So anytime your system goes down, we are there to help you in terms of a disaster recovery, and cloud is there for you. And the very last thing that we focus on is the AI power monitoring. So if you are able to capture the particular bugs in the feature, then if you are catching them early, you can fix them early. So your user can't get the bad experience. If they are able to get the bad experience, that definitely impacts the growth of your application and the retention of users. So these are the critical things that you should focus on while doing the migration. That's the thing we followed. And the result of this, what was the result of this? So nearly uh, from 10K to the 1 million, the application was getting up within a second. So it was like there is no downtime for them. So the deployment speed also increased. At Inspiron Labs, we follow weekly deployment strategy instead of a once a while month. That's a very old strategy. A lot of people still follow, but following the strategy which is more suitable for you is the best decision. If you are going for weekly deployments, and if you're delivering the features early, that also brings a more ROI to the business. And 30% of the cost on infra has been reduced, because initially the people were focused on just spending the money on the upfront cost of the infra instead of understanding their product and understanding the what will be the best suitable size of an infra for them. So we go for operational cost, and we go with the cloud native approach, which brings the cost down. So there is no much chances of the problem that I see while going with the cloud native applications, and it brings more cost to the down. And the very important thing is that while doing this migration, the entire system, the live system or the legacy system, never got impacted. So 99.9% of the time, the system was perfectly working fine, and there was no any problem about their legacy system. So it was always there for serving. And this is the strategy that you wanted to go for. And the second challenge we solved, that is also in the B2B crowded market in the SaaS product, as that is also SaaS product in the B2B crowded market, where for them it was not a scaling problem. It wasn't particularly, but it was about the user retention on their platform. The user growth has been stagnant, and they are not getting enough users, or they are not able to innovate. So that's where the Inspiron Labs comes into the picture, and it helps you in innovation in order to deliver the more features of the Gen AI to the users. And it helps you on also the Inspiron Labs helps you understand the trends particularly set in the market with the help of a Gen AI, and accordingly serve your users. So it can be anything. It can be AI dashboards. It can be any RAG application that we can integrate in order to serve your users more content, whatever they are requesting for. Or it is always important to build the system in a such a way that the GenAI is giving you the more ability to understand the market trends, and able to also focus on delivering the more content to the user on their dashboard, whatever according to their preferences as well. That's really important. If you are delivering the content according to the preference of the user will definitely going to love to see your platform, and he's going to share that among the market, and definitely is again going to help your business to grow gradually. So these are the things that we followed at Inspiron Labs, and the result of this, like we integrated the Gen AI, we integrated the AI dashboards, which helped the user getting more user preference dashboard. The second thing, it helped in retention of the user on the platform. 20% of the user got increased on the platform as well. The feature, we started integrating the AI features in a such way that the user retention is also the key factor, as well as the adoption of a feature is also really important. Like whatever the features that you are delivering, whether it is going to be used by user, that's really important. So 25% of the features were adopted by the users, and the faster support, that's really matters when you are delivering the GenAI. Definitely, you are going to talk about the agentic, means the GenAI agents basically. So they can bring up your cost of the actual customer care services down to the 60%, and definitely it can bring the AI agent which can serve your 60% of the traffic. So for that particular application, we integrated the AI agent, which definitely helped them in reducing the cost on customer care agents. And the AI agents were able to handle the users and their questions. So it was like a 60% faster support for their users. So they don't have to queue and they don't have to wait for getting the response. And definitely, the product roadmap has been optimized using the AI-driven insight. So they got a proper idea of with the AI insights, they got a proper idea of what things can go well for them and what things can't go well for them. So this is really important. So embedding GenAI can bring you to the very top at the market level, or if you're not doing it a very proper or strategic way, definitely it is not going to help you in terms of anything. So you have to think of all of the aspects while integrating the GenAI. So our strategy of a playbook worked for them in the integration of a GenAI, or whether it is integration of a, or it is scaling of a application to the cloud native, means using cloud native. So these things really matters for any business. So these are the things that you should look after if you are doing the modernization. And definitely, if you are among those SMEs and if you are really interested in order to do this transformation or the migration, definitely you should follow the strategies from our playbook. So over to you, Priyanka.
Sorry. Yeah, so here we have created a survey question for our audiences. So we would like to understand the top modernization priority for 2026. Here we have curated four options for you all, and we would like to see like which is your top modernization priority. So you can drop your answer. You can select one or two based on your priority, and drop your answers on our comment box. So we have like 1 minute for this. So meanwhile, we would like to ask our speakers. So let me ask this question to you both, Sudarshan and Venkat. So what would be your top modernization priority for 2026? Till then, we'll wait for audiences to get the response on chat.
For me, it will be just cost optimization because that is something which I kind of right now working
Right.
on, and that's like one of the most important things for me right now, apart from AI
That,
integration and
that's
speed to market.
that's really true. That's really true. For everyone, the cost optimization really matters in terms of, for me as well, the very first aspect I'll go with the cost optimization and the delivering of the features to the user. So speed to the market. Are you trying to get at a very top position in the market, or are you just going at a very slow momentum? So momentum really matters a lot. So these are the two aspects I'll go with definitely.
So yeah, we have received a couple of responses over here. So everyone have their own priority, as I can see. So, like, since you have mentioned optimization, the other one is like customer experience and speed to market. So, definitely depends on their product requirement and depend on their transformation plan. They have come up with their own priority, top modernization priority for 2026. So, yeah, with that note, maybe let's go through the next topic. So why choose Inspiron Labs? Definitely, that's a very good question. So at Inspiron Labs, we provide like product engineering services, and we have a like a huge talent pool that can have a great expertise and knowledge across modern stack. And as Venkat and Sudarshan has mentioned, GenAI is a buzzword nowadays, and if you are not using it in your in your legacy system or in your modernization plan, definitely you're lagging behind like your competitors, I can say. And to stay in the market, you have to stay with the current technologies, and we at Inspiron Labs provide you modernization services that is completely backed by GenAI, so that you can make more intelligent decision. Along with that, like we have a proven strategy, the framework which Venkat has walked you through. So that is a proven strategies, and we have seen a great like business impact around modernization journey. So now so from this webinar, we'll be sharing a practical GenAI and cloud scale modernization playbook with you, which can help you and guide you in your like next step related to the modernization. And if you have any queries or any consultation or expert advice required, you can reach out to us at any time, and we can help you. And we would love to be a partner with you in your transformation journey. Next one is like we have pretty much covered all the topics, and you have gone through everything as per the agenda. And Sudarshan and Venkat have already covered most of the topic and shared the insights related to the modernization part. So you can drop your questions in the chat box, and we would like to answer it over here. So we'll give couple of like minutes to this. So yeah, we received one question, which is basically from Dharmesh. What is the biggest risk leaders underestimate during modernization? So any one of you can take that question.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And definitely, there are a lot of risk factors that definitely leaders think about it. They are really worried about the operational operations going on their on live system, whether it is going to impact during the transition. That's a very big risk that they see. The second thing what I see is that the definitely you if you are building the system which needs to be transitioned to the modernization, you should develop the system in a such a way that there should be rollback mechanism. You should go for a feature flags, particularly if you're deploying any feature to the user, so that any impact comes on that particular feature, you can disable it or uh, get the idea of that. As well as the very important thing while doing this particular transitioning, you have to do the real-time monitoring. So you can go with the AI-powered monitoring tools, or you can go with the proper monitoring tools which can help you in your transitioning journey. And definitely, disruption-free scale is should be designed in a such way that in a strategic way that there are no such a risk involved. That's what I see.
Sorry, Priyanka, I think you are on mute.
Sorry. Apologies for that. So another question which we have is in a 300 millisecond end-to-end SLA system, how much latency budget do you allocate to GenAI interface? I think it is interface, and how do you enforce it? So any one of you would like to take this question?
So I think, yeah. So mainly on the budget, I mean the interface or the SLAs, what you prepare, right? It kind of depends on what kind of use case are you looking at. So if it's a typical, like what kind of use case you deploy your Gen AI or your AI feature, right? So it mainly depends on the feature. For typical, let's say a chatbot kind of things, SLAs are kind of fine, like 300 milliseconds or up to 1 or 2 seconds is still okay for me because it's chatbot, and generally that is what you see on the system, right? So it mainly depends on the kind of feature which you are looking at and how do you want to actually get the output out of it. So there's no right or standard answer for this. It, like I mentioned, it depends on the use case.
Thank you, Venkat. That really helped. So, since we are running out of time and we have like a lot of questions in the comment box, what we can do after this session, we will answer all your queries by replying to that question, or maybe we'll drop you an email with the answer to that like respective queries. So now, yeah, so we have covered like pretty much of our today's discussions and topic. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope that this session, like it gave you clear direction related to your modernization journey and related to your transformation journey using GenAI and cloud scale. And it's great connecting with you all. We love to see you again in our next webinar. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.